Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Pittsburgh. I am Alice Carnes, a member of this church. It is May 29th, 2022. We are so glad you have chosen to be with us this morning. Whoever you are and whomever you love, wherever you are from, you are welcome. Whatever reason you chose to click on the link or Google for our YouTube service, you are welcome. And of course, welcome to all of you in our sanctuary. Whether you are new to this community or a longtime member, you are welcome. We are a community dedicated to welcoming the stranger and working for justice wherever the heavy weight of oppression has dug into the fabric of life. And I'm live in the sanctuary, as I said, with many people. It's so lovely to see all of you this morning. And I welcome and celebrate Kathy Fine, liturgist, who will give the homily this morning. Additionally, I'm delighted to welcome guest pianist Deanna Witkowski, who I got to meet this morning, who is a composer and an author. And please look for additional information about Deanna on the back of your order of service. We also have Chris Rust, Andrew Papali, and Emily Sweeney on our tech crew this morning, and they're really earning their money, let me tell you. They've been very busy. The hymn leader is Kurt Summersgill and Sue Orkvitz. Thank you so much. I've heard you practicing. It sounds lovely. And this morning, Louise Jensick, who's also sitting behind me, will read a story for all ages. And we have a special treat this morning. We have the dance choir of Tori Butterworth, Kathy Rohr, and Sarah Sheard, who are dancing to the Vine and Fig Tree song with original choreography by Tori Butterworth. And we welcome first-timers. If this is your first time with us, we would love to be in touch with you. If you've not already done so, please go to our website, first-unitarian-pgh.org, and sign up for our weekly newsletter found at the bottom of the page. You are also invited to join us for social time following this live worship. And so if you're watching from home, to get a Zoom link, please send an email to firstunitarianpittsburgh@gmail.com. For today's service, Kathy Fine and I wanted to honor Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese Buddhist monk who is known as the father of mindfulness, a peace activist, prolific author, poet, and teacher. In 1967, Martin Luther King Jr. nominated Thich Nhat Hanh for a Nobel Peace Prize, calling him an apostle of peace and nonviolence. His followers called him Thai, which means teacher. Thich Nhat Hanh died on January 22nd of this year at the age of 95. And today, our Reverend Kate R. Walker, is offering a silent vigil after this worship service at 11:45 to 12:15. We'll be outside on the corner of Ellsworth and Moorhead with signs that read, "Reduce gun violence." And also from Reverend Kate, if you're interested in working on reducing gun violence, please email her, Reverend Kate, at minister@first-unitarian-pgh.org. This silent vigil outside will not take the place of our social time on Zoom, because there are still people that are watching from home, so there will still be that opportunity to have social time on Zoom this morning. And during our meditation time, I will read an important message from verbatim from Reverend Kate. And now I invite you to take a deep breath. Arrive in body and spirit. And picture yourself connected to all others who are watching today and in the future. And we turn to our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. And if you have a chalice at home, we invite you to light it at this time. We light this chalice with a Thich Nhat Hanh quote. I have arrived. I am home. In the here, in the now. I am solid. I am free. In the ultimate, I dwell. Please stand as you are willing and able for our opening hymn, number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning, in your gray hymnal, number 163.
The Coconut Monk by Thich Nhat Hanh, as told to Rachel Newman and illustrated by Vo Dinh Mai. There once was a monk who lived on a small island in Vietnam. He spent his time sitting in a coconut tree and eating coconuts, so people called him the Coconut Monk. The Coconut Monk had two good friends, a cat and a mouse. Every day they would climb up the coconut tree and play together. The Coconut Monk enjoyed sitting high in the tree with his friends. He would watch the boats going by on the Mekong Delta and listen to the birds sing. The Coconut Monk lived in a time when Vietnam was at war. All the fighting made him very sad. One day he went out walking, and while he walked, he collected bits of metal pieces of bombs and bullets that littered the land. He melted all the pieces together and turned them into a beautiful bell. He told the pieces of metal, "You have been playing the game of war. Now you can help create peace." Every night before going to sleep, he would strike the bell. Its music echoed out into the night sky. The coconut monk decided to go and ask the president to stop the war. He didn't have any belongings, so packing was very easy. He just climbed down the tree and he was ready to go. But the coconut monk didn't go alone. His two friends, the cat and the mouse, came along to keep him company. They traveled for many days and nights. Even though the road was rough and the journey long, they stopped often to notice the beauty around them. At night, the monk slept leaning against a tree, and the cat and the mouse slept together in a basket. Sometimes it was rainy and cold, and the friends huddled together. Other times it was warm, and they played in the sunshine. Finally, they reached the presidential palace, a huge white building surrounded by guards. The guards would not let them in. "What can you, a simple monk, have to say to the president?" they demanded. The coconut monk held up the basket with the cat and the mouse playing happily together. "I would like all people to live together in peace," he said, "the way my friends, the cat and the mouse, live. Surely our differences are not bigger than theirs." When the guards heard this, they became angry. "You fool," they shouted, and they grabbed the monk. They threw him in prison. Because the cat and the mouse wouldn't leave their friend, the guards had to throw them in prison too. The prison was dark and cold, but the coconut monk sat very quietly and continued to breathe peacefully, just as he had in his coconut tree. The coconut monk shared his food with the cat and the mouse and all the other prisoners. And even though there wasn't much food, the cat didn't eat the mouse. People started asking about the coconut monk. They wrote letters and they visited him in prison. Soon the guards had no choice but to release him. The monk, the cat, and the mouse returned to their coconut tree. If a cat and mouse can live together in peace, don't you think we humans can too?
The Vine and Fig Tree hymn is wonderful. Ukrainian in origin, was introduced recently to our church as we would send the children to their religious education classes. But today it looks like there are no children. There are no religious education classes this morning. But the members of the dance choir are here to perform an originally choreographed dance to the Vine and Fig Tree. The author of this peace song is unknown. It is based on biblical quotes from Micah and Isaiah. The vine and fig tree is an ancient phrase signifying prosperity, well-being, safety, security, fruitfulness, freedom, and peace. It is set to a Hebrew folk tune, the composer is also unknown, called Lo Yisagoy. The dance steps are based on Hasidic folk dancing. Hasidism is a Jewish religious group that arose in Poland and later known as Western Ukraine during the 18th century. As a spiritual revival movement, it spread rapidly throughout Eastern Europe. In Hasidic thought and literature, dancing is a joyful expression that unites the community while enhancing social relationships. Dancing purifies the soul and is spiritually uplifting. I now welcome the dance choir.
Donations to First Unitarian Church may be made by check, mailed to the church office. Electronic donations can be made online through the church website by texting GIVE to 412-435-1050 and following the instructions.
Now is the time for joys and sorrows. I'll start with the sorrows. Stephanie Pulowski shares that her father-in-law, Jerry Pulowski, who lives in Lakeland, Florida, had a heart attack, and he will come off of life support as not expected to live very long. Let us hold Stephanie and her family in love and light. And now to the joys. We celebrate a major joy from Mary Costellos, who is delighted to share the news of her marriage to Michelle Maria Gregorich on Friday, May 27th. Best wishes to both Mary and Michelle on their happiest of occasions. And the last joy this morning is a congratulations to Christine Beregi, who graduated on May 27th with a master's degree in theology from the Pittsburgh Theological Seminary. Not only did she do that, but she won the Brooks Foundation Commencement Prize for the highest standing in pastoral care. That does not surprise us, Christine. I ask you all to take some deep breaths with me because I'm going to be sharing something that we all know and we've been watching in the news, and it's just so heartbreaking. So let's just breathe together for a few moments. This is the verbatim message from our Reverend Dr. Kate R. Walker. This message has also appeared in the weekly Chalice newsletter of May 26th. And the title is Reduce Gun Violence. And I quote, "Beloved, our hearts are breaking yet again as Black people and children are ruthlessly gunned down by uncontained violence. For some of us, we can barely look at the news, read the words, or listen to the testimony of bereft families. For others, we dive into the trauma with a blind rush for answers, impacting our own mental health. The never-ending debates, acrimony, and mutual accusations by politicians only deepen our feelings of pain and powerlessness. There is blood in our streets, and we feel utterly hopeless to stop it. I offer prayers and sympathy to you as your minister, yet I know it is not enough. I would offer a hug were we not in a pandemic. I offer a hand of strength and fortitude. Please don't let go. This is our community, made up of broken hearts and hands that refuse to give up. I've worked on reducing gun violence for years in Virginia and gained some laws requiring minimal action by gun owners and sellers. But this path totally depends on who is in office. I refuse to give up, no matter which political party is in office. Most Americans want to reduce gun violence, which requires education about gun violence. Most gun violence involves suicide and financial support for mental health services. Guns and the culture of power and the false defense mystique they carry is complex and deeply tied to our American identity. Yet, we must not let go of our need to create a healthier community where we are not burying our beloved in pools of sorrow, unquote. Thich Nhat Hanh wrote, "Suffering is not enough. Life is both dreadful and wonderful. How can I smile when I am filled with so much sorrow? It is natural. You need to smile to your sorrow because you are more than your sorrow." Let us join together for several moments of silence. This meditation from Thich Nhat Hanh, touching the earth. I let go of the idea that I am this body and my lifespan is limited. I see that this body, made up of the 4 elements, is not really me. I am not limited by this body. I am part of a stream of life, of spiritual and blood ancestors that for thousands of years has been flowing into the present and flows on for thousands of years into the future. I am one with my ancestors. I am one with all people and all species, whether they are peaceful and fearless or suffering and afraid. At this moment, I am present everywhere on this planet. I'm also present in the past and in the future. I have gone beyond the idea I am a body that is separated in space and time from all other forms of life. Please stay seated for this next hymn. It's in your teal hymnal. It's number 1025, "When Will the Fighting Cease?" Teal hymnal number 1025.
We will hear the music first, then we'll sing together, and then we can split into a round for 2 verses.
When will the fighting cease? When will we live in peace? When our love breaks boundaries?
Our Kinship with Others, a reading by Pema Chodron, a Buddhist monk of the Shambhala tradition. Our personal attempts to live humanely in this world are never wasted. Choosing to cultivate love rather than anger, peace rather than conflict, just might be what it takes to save the planet from extinction. What is it that allows our good to expand and our prejudice and anger to decrease? This is a significant question. Traditionally, it is said that the root of aggression and suffering is ignorance. But what is it that we are ignoring? Entrenched in our personal concerns, what we ignore is our kinship with others. One reason we train in present moment awareness, meditation, is to recognize our interconnectedness, to grow in understanding that when we harm another, we are harming ourselves. So we train in recognizing our uptightness, in seeing that others are not so different from ourselves, in keeping our hearts and minds open in increasingly difficult situations. In cultivating peace and loving kindness, we seek first to be honest and compassionate towards ourselves. Without compassion for ourselves, it is difficult, if not impossible, to genuinely feel it for others. The instruction is to find the tenderness that we already have, the vulnerability of loneliness or fear, and engender compassion and loving kindness for ourselves. It is a lifelong endeavor. I'm next on the agenda. Peace is Every Step is the title of a book by the Zen Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh, whom we honor today. The topic of peace is especially compelling at this time as war rages in Ukraine and gun violence is targeting schools and grocery stores and what else across this country. For Thich Nhat Hanh, Zen Buddhism at its essence was the practice of peace through compassionate listening. Compassion, he said, is a verb. Peace is present right here and now, he wrote, in ourselves and in everything we do and see. Every breath we take can be filled with peace, joy, and serenity if we're in touch with it. For that, we need to be alive and awake in the present moment. This is peace achieved from within, with present moment awareness, which is also called mindfulness. It's what we do when we meditate. Thich Nhat Hanh invites us moment by moment, to breath by breath, to let go of whatever story we're telling ourselves in our minds and be fully present to the restlessness of our own energy as it is right now in the present moment. This, according to Thich Nhat Hanh, is the source of peace. His message seems simple, but it's not easy, and this is his story. Thich Nhat Hanh was born in 1926 in Hue, Vietnam, and ordained as a Buddhist monk at the age of 16. He studied philosophy and religion and became a professor at the Buddhist University in Saigon. He dedicated his life to working for peace, beginning in his beloved Vietnam and then in the wider world. Compassionate listening for Thich Nhat Hanh is the heart of his message and his work. Among people, compassionate listening requires attentiveness to the whole person, the words, the gestures, and the emotions, in the present moment as they speak without distraction or other input or content. I had a teacher at the Shambhala Meditation Center who instructed us to think of ourselves as one giant ear while listening to others in our discussion groups. That can be quite powerful. In meditation, we are listening to our own restless energy. The total focus on the breath enables us to experience the present moment of our own minds without the distraction of thought, and the effect is a sense of peace between people and within ourselves. In 1961, Thich Nhat Hanh traveled to the United States to study, and he also taught comparative religion at Princeton and Columbia universities. He became known in the U.S. because of his strong opposition to the war in Vietnam, where Buddhist monks were burning themselves alive to protest against the war. While in the U.S., he met A.J. Muste, a widely respected Christian pacifist and one of the foremost proponents of nonviolence. Muste was a strong supporter of the civil rights movement in the U.S., and he was also opposed to the Vietnam War. He introduced Thich Nhat Hanh to Martin Luther King Jr. in the hopes that the Buddhist monk could convince King that opposition to the war in Vietnam was fundamental and integral to racial justice in the U.S. The two met, and Thich Nhat Hanh succeeded in persuading King to come out against the Vietnam War despite strong approval from King's allies and supporters. "There is no way to peace and justice," Thich Nhat Hanh told him. "Peace and justice are the way." King was so impressed with Thich Nhat Hanh's commitment to peace, and especially his efforts to reconcile North and South Vietnam, that not only did he nominate him for the Nobel Prize, as Alice mentioned, but he himself went on to embrace nonviolence himself as the path to racial justice and healing. King had previously believed that war could serve as a negative good in preventing force and violence. Thich Nhat Hanh convinced him otherwise. After his nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize, Thich Nhat Hanh was banned from his own country and took up residence in France, living in exile at Plum Village, a retreat center that he founded in southern France. He continued to work for peace in talks and retreats, and was finally able to return to his beloved Vietnam in 2008. He spent his final years in the monastery where he had been ordained 80 years earlier. Thich Nhat Hanh's life and work changed the world and have inspired those who would practice peace in their own lives and promote peace in the world. So let's take a moment right now to honor Thich Nhat Hanh with a short meditation period. I forgot my gong, so I will just clap when it's time to begin meditating and clap at the end. I invite you to relax and get comfortable in your seat with your feet flat on the floor and your hands resting on your thighs. The eyes are half closed, not focusing on any one thing. Keep your mouth slightly open to help relax the jaw. As you breathe through your nose, place your attention on the breath, on the sensation of the body breathing, on the rhythm of in and out, the air coming in the nose and down the throat, the lungs inflating, the diaphragm expanding, just breathing in and breathing out at a comfortable pace that's just right for you. Nothing is exaggerated, simply breathing. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. When thoughts arise, as they inevitably will, we are habituated to thinking. That's not a problem. Gently notice that your attention has wandered from the breath and return your attention to the breath, as though the thought were a bubble and you've touched it with a feather. Treat any thoughts that arise without judgment and return to the breath with gentleness, coming back to the present moment again and again. Back to the present moment where we find peace. Thank you.
Right now, we're not. The hymn in your gray hymnal is number 166, Years Are Coming. In the gray hymnal, number 166, you may stand as you are willing and able. Thank you.
Years are coming, speed them onward, when the sword shall gather round, and the Highland lads and falchions sleep at last in silent town. Earth has heard too long a battle, heard the trumpet's voice too long. But another age advances, is foretold in ancient song. Years are coming when forevermore that banner shall be furled, and the angel beings be welcomed, regent of a happy world. Hail with song that glorious era, when the sword shall gather round, and the helmet, lance, and falchion sleep at last in silent dust.
May we be at peace in our bodies and our minds. May we become wholly and completely ourselves. May our hearts be filled with compassion towards all living beings. And may we practice the establishment of peace in our hearts and on earth. Go in peace, return in love.